Fleet commander stood at the observation window of his flagship and watched the blue planet grow larger, 10,000 years. That was how long it had been since the Dominion abandoned this world. Now he was returning to see what remained. The old records called it Earth, a troublesome world filled with troublesome creatures. Humans, they called themselves, had studied the ancient files during the long journey. Here, the humans had been primitives. When the Dominion first arrived, they used fire and metal and rode animals. Across their land, they should have been easy to control. They were not. The first settlers came expecting grateful servants. Instead, they found resistance. The humans fought with spears and arrows at first, then with guns and bombs. They hid in mountains and forests. They refused to surrender. They died in enormous numbers but kept fighting anyway. The Dominion sent more soldiers. The humans built better weapons. The Dominion destroyed their cities. The humans scattered and rebuilt. It went on for decades. The cost grew too high. Other worlds needed attention. Other species proved easier to manage. So the Dominion made a decision. If they could not control the humans, they would suppress them forever. Scientists created a biological agent, an invisible thing that would spread through the air and water and soil. It would not kill humans, it would simply make them forget. Each generation would lose a little more knowledge. Within a few centuries, humans would be back to living in caves, unable to remember how to make fire. The agent was released. The Dominion left. Earth was marked as a dead world, not worth visiting again. Until now had been given a simple mission: survey the Sol system, check if anything useful remained. The Dominion was expanding again, and every world mattered, even this forgotten place at the edge of known space. His second officer, a young female named, approached with a data tablet. Her scales were pale with concern. Commander, the scans are complete. The results are strange. Took the tablet and frowned at the readings. This cannot be correct. I had the sensors checked 3 times. Commander, the readings are accurate. According to the data, Earth was healthy, more than healthy. The atmosphere was cleaner than it had been 10,000 years ago. The forests had spread. The oceans teemed with life. There were no radiation signatures, no pollution markers, no signs of industrial collapse, but there were also no cities, no roads, no power signatures, no communication signals. Felt his confusion growing. Snorts, the biological agent was supposed to cause slow decline, not complete disappearance. Where were the primitive human tribes? Where were the scattered villages? The planet looked like no intelligent species had ever touched it. Perhaps the agent was too effective. Suggested, perhaps they died out entirely. The agent was not designed to kill. Replied, it was designed to suppress. They should still be here, primitive. Yes, but present. He ordered the fleet to take up orbit around the planet. 12 ships in total, enough to survey every corner of this forgotten world. The crew was curious but not worried. What could possibly threaten them here? The humans were either dead or reduced to animals. Either way, they posed no danger. The first survey teams reported back within hours. They found wilderness, beautiful, thriving, perfect wilderness forests that stretched unbroken across continents, herds of animals moving, ancient patterns, birds filling the skies, rivers running clear and cold, but no humans, not a single trace of them. One team found what might have been the ruins of an old city buried so deep under forest growth that only faint outlines remained. Another team discovered caves with primitive paintings on the walls thousands of years old. That was all. It was as if humanity had simply vanished, should have been relieved. No humans meant no complications. The planet could be claimed for the Dominion without any resistance, yet something felt wrong. The world was too clean, too perfect. Nature did not work this way. Left alone, ecosystems became chaotic. Unstable, this world felt managed. He kept his concerns to himself. His officers would think he was being foolish. Then the moon station was discovered. A routine scan of Earth's single large moon revealed an artificial structure on the dark side. It was small, barely visible against the rock. The design was unlike anything in records. Clean lines, strange angles, materials that did not register properly on sensors. That is not construction, said, stating the obvious, and it is not old. The surface shows no weathering, no micro impacts. This structure is maintained. Stared at the image, his heart's beat faster. Could there be survivors, humans, who somehow escaped the agent on the moon without visible ships or supply lines? Shook her head. That seems impossible, Commander, but there it was, proof that someone was here. Someone with technology advanced enough to build on a moon and keep it hidden from casual observation. Ordered a communication attempt. Standard frequencies, standard greeting protocols. For a long moment nothing happened. Then every screen on the flagship flickered. A message appeared, text only. In perfect ancient script, the language had not been used for thousands of years. Only historians and scholars knew it now, yet there it was, clear and precise. You were not invited. State your intentions. The bridge fell silent. Officers stared at their screens, felt cold spreading through his body. This was not possible. And GT snorts. And GT. The humans had been primitives, even without the biological agent. 10,000 years was not enough time to go from swords to moon bases. It took the 50,000 years to reach the stars. Commander whispered, what do we do? Straightened his posture. He was a fleet commander of the Dominion. He would not show fear to his crew. Whatever lived on that moon, whatever had survived on this world, they were still dealing with a fully armed expedition fleet. Dominion had conquered 1,000 worlds. They would not be intimidated by a single structure and an old greeting. Prepare a diplomatic shuttle, he ordered. I want a team at that station within the hour. Whoever is there, we will speak with them directly, and if they are hostile, looked back at the blue planet turning slowly below them. Somewhere down there something had happened, something that turned a world of primitives into something else entirely. He needed to know what. Then we will remind them why the Dominion left this world marked as dead, he said. We will remind them what happens to species that resist us. He spoke with confidence he did not feel. The message still glowed on his screen. Those words, written in a language dead for, felt like a warning or perhaps a test. The shuttle launched toward the moon, watched it go, and wondered if he had just made a terrible mistake. The old record said humans were dangerous because they never stopped fighting. But those humans had fought with primitive weapons against technology. What would they fight with now? The Question haunted him as he waited for his team to report. The blue planet turned below, beautiful and silent, keeping its secrets. 10,000 years of secrets had come here expecting to find ruins and bones. He was beginning to suspect he would find something else entirely. The diplomatic shuttle touched down beside the strange structure on Earth's moon. Lieutenant led the team of 6, all trained soldiers with experience in first contact situations. They wore full armor and carried weapons capable of destroying a small building. They expected to need neither. The structure was smaller than it appeared on scans. A simple dome, perhaps 20 m across, made of a material that looked like polished stone but felt like nothing had ever touched. There were no visible doors, no windows, no markings of any kind. Scan for entry points ordered before his team could respond. A section of the wall simply faded away. One moment it was solid, the next moment there was an opening perfectly shaped, exactly large enough for them to enter single file. Reported this to commander on the flagship. The commander told them to proceed with caution. Was not sure what caution meant when dealing with walls that disappeared on their own. Inside, the dome was empty, a single room with a curved ceiling, bare walls, and a floor of the same strange material. There was nothing here. No equipment, no furniture, no signs of habitation. The team spread out, scanning every surface, looking for hidden panels or concealed technology. They found nothing. This makes no sense. One of the soldiers muttered, "Someone sent that message. Someone maintains this place. Where are they?" The answer came from everywhere and nowhere. "We are here." The voice spoke in modern, perfectly accented with the formal tone used in diplomatic situations. It seemed to come from the walls themselves. Team raised their weapons, spinning in circles, searching for a target. "Show yourselves," demanded. "That is not necessary for this conversation. You came to determine who we are. We can tell you without revealing ourselves. This is simpler for everyone." Did not like this. He was trained to evaluate threats by seeing them. A voice without a body could be anything. It could be a recording. It could be an artificial system. It could be something worse. "Are you human?" he asked. "Yes." "How is that possible?" "The biological agent we adapted." The voice said nothing more. It waited, felt his scales prickling with unease. He reported to commander, describing the empty dome and the disembodied voice. The commander ordered him to gather information and return to the fleet. "What happened here?" asked the voice. "Where are your people? Why is Earth empty?" "Earth is not empty. Earth is complete. There are no cities, no technology, no population centers." "Correct. Then where do you live?" There was a pause when the voice spoke again. It sounded almost amused. "You are looking for what we were, metal cities, burning fuel, signals in the air. We outgrew those things long ago. We are still on Earth. We are everywhere on Earth. You simply cannot see us anymore." Tried to understand this and failed. How could a species exist without infrastructure, without visible presence? It was impossible. "I think you are lying," he said. "I think you are a small group of survivors, hiding on this moon, pretending to be more than you are. You are free to believe that." The voice offered no defense, no proof. This annoyed more than threats would have. He was used to species that boasted about their power. This calm acceptance was something new. Back on the flagship, Commander listened to describe the strange conversation. He was troubled by what he heard, but he refused to show it. He ordered the survey teams to continue their work on Earth, whatever the humans claimed to be. There had to be evidence somewhere. There was, but not the kind anyone expected. A team exploring the northern forests reported something strange. Trees were planted in patterns, not obvious patterns, nothing visible from the ground, but when analyzed from orbit, the forests formed shapes, mathematical shapes, perfect fractals, stretching across entire continents. Another team found animals behaving in ways that made no biological sense. Predators and prey moving in coordinated patterns, avoiding each other at precise distances, like pieces on a game board. No natural ecosystem worked this way. The weather team noticed something even more disturbing. Storm systems followed routes that avoided certain areas completely. Rain fell in regular intervals across every region. Temperatures stayed within narrow ranges. Earth's climate was not natural. It was controlled. This is impossible, said reviewing the data. You cannot manage an entire planet's ecosystem. The complexity alone would require. She stopped. She could not finish the sentence because she could not imagine what it would require. Stared at the planet below. He was beginning to understand something terrible. The humans had not just survived the biological agent. They had not just built technology on their moon. They had transformed their entire world into something else, something designed, something managed at a scale they had never attempted. And they were invisible. That was the part that frightened him most. The Dominion had conquered 1,000 worlds. They knew how to evaluate threats, but you could not evaluate what you could not see. Commander, a sensor officer called out. We are detecting movement in the outer system. What kind of movement? Objects in the asteroid belt, hundreds of them. They were previously classified as natural debris. They are now changing course. Felt his heart freeze toward us. No, Commander, they are simply repositioning, like pieces being moved into new places. More reports came in. Objects around Jupiter were moving. Satellites around Saturn were adjusting orbits. Tiny things too small to notice before were revealing themselves throughout the entire system. They are everywhere. Whispered, whatever they have become. They are everywhere. Understood. Now the empty planet was not a failure of human civilization. It was a choice. They had spread beyond their world, filled their system with unseen things, and left their home as a garden, a memorial, a reminder of what they once were. Every screen on every ship suddenly activated. A face appeared, a human face, not young, not old, calm and patient. The human looked at them all with eyes that held no fear, no anger, no urgency. We wondered if you would come back, the human said. We have been waiting. Stared at the face. 10,000 years. That was how long the humans had been waiting, watching the stars, preparing for this moment. What do you want? Managed to ask. The human smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of someone who had all the time in the universe and nothing left to prove. We want to talk, the human said. We have so much to discuss. Looked at his crew. He saw fear in their eyes. He felt it in his own hearts. They had come to this system expecting ruins and bones. They had found something else entirely. They had found humanity, and humanity had been expecting them. The human called themselves a speaker. They explained that this was their role. Snorts, they spoke to outsiders so that humanity did not have to reveal itself directly. Did not understand why such a role was necessary, but he did not ask. He had too many other questions. The speaker appeared on his personal screen. In his private quarters, had tried to block communications to regain control of his own systems. Nothing worked. Human appeared whenever they chose, wherever they chose. The technology offered no protection at all. You have questions, the speaker said. Ask them. Had prepared a list. He started with the most important one. How did you survive the biological agent? We did not merely survive it, we adapted to it. Your scientists designed it to suppress our technological development. They assumed our development depended on external tools. They were wrong. What do you mean? The agent worked for nearly 200 years. During that time, we lost much of what we had built. Cities fell. Knowledge was forgotten. Your plan succeeded exactly as intended. The speaker paused. Their expression remained calm, almost gentle. Then we changed. The agent affected our bodies. We learned to affect our bodies in return. We turned the agent into a tool. We used it to rebuild ourselves from the inside. Your weapon became the foundation of everything we are now. Struggled to understand. You altered your own biology using something designed to harm you. We had no choice. We were dying as a species, so we became something new. It took centuries. Many generations suffered and failed. But eventually we succeeded. We became beings who did not need external technology. We became beings who could change ourselves. That is impossible. No species can advance without tools. The speaker smiled, that patient smile. Again, you think in terms of tools, because that is how your species developed. You built machines to extend your bodies. We built our bodies to replace machines. Different paths to the same destination. Felt cold. He had studied many species. Some were stronger than some were faster, but all of them followed the same pattern. They used tools. They built technology. They extended their power through external means. If humans had found another way, a way that required no visible technology, no infrastructure, no support systems. You are telling me, he said slowly, that every human is now capable of things that would require our most advanced machines. More than that, every human is connected. We share knowledge, we share experience, we share capability. What one of us learns, all of us know. What one of us can do, all of us can do. We are still individuals, but we are also something larger. This was worse than had imagined. A species of billions, all connected, all sharing the same vast knowledge base. It would be like fighting a single organism spread across an entire world. Why did you not leave your planet? Why did you not spread across the galaxy? We did spread, the speaker said, but not in ways you would recognize. We do not need ships to travel. We do not need colonies to expand. We are elsewhere. Many elsewhere, but that is not something you need to understand right now. Wanted to demand more information. He wanted to know everything about what humanity had become. But the speaker's calm refusal made it clear that some questions would not be answered. You could have contacted us, he said. Instead, you could have announced yourselves to the galaxy. Why hide for so long? We had no interest in the galaxy. We had no interest in you. We Remembered what you did to us, we. Remembered the biological agent, the attempted enslavement, the destruction of our civilization, we did not forget. Then why not take revenge? You clearly have the power. The speaker's expression changed for the first time. Something sad moved across their features. We considered it in the early centuries, when the pain was still fresh. Many of us wanted exactly that. We wanted to find thee and make them pay for what they had done. We had the ability. We could have destroyed your dominion before you even knew we existed. Why did you not? Because revenge would have required us to become like you. We would have had to be conquerors, destroyers. We would have had to build ourselves around hatred and violence. We chose differently. We chose to grow beyond the need for revenge. Did not believe this. No species simply forgave the kind of damage the Dominion had inflicted. There had to be another reason, so you just watched us for 10,000 years. Yes, we watched you expand. We watched you conquer. We watched you use the biological agent on 12 other species, suppressing their development just as you tried to suppress ours. Speaker's voice remained calm, but something harder appeared in their eyes. We recorded everything, every species. You suppressed every culture. You destroyed every potential. You erased. We have kept careful records. Felt his scales tightening. This was the threat he had been waiting for. This was the purpose behind the patient conversation. What do you want? He asked again. What is the price for our fleet? Survival. The speaker looked at him with something like surprise, then something like disappointment. You still think in terms of transactions, power exchanged for power, threat balanced against threat. That is not why we revealed ourselves to you. Then why? We wanted to see who would come back. We wanted to see how they would behave. We wanted to know if the Dominion had changed in 10,000 years, or if you were still the same empire that tried to enslave us, tried to read the human's expression. He could not. 10,000 years of evolution had made them unreadable. And what have you concluded? The speaker did not answer directly. Instead, they said, your weapons systems are armed. You gave that order an hour ago. You thought we would not notice. Fro, he had indeed ordered weapons armed, quietly, without announcing it to his crew. It had been a precaution, a reasonable military decision. Your fleet is completely surrounded by things you cannot see, the speaker continued. Every ship is monitored. Every system is accessible to us. We could disable your entire expedition without effort. We could destroy it without lifting a finger. Then why have you not? Because we are still waiting. We are still hopping. We are still giving you a chance to be something other than what you have always been. The speaker leaned forward slightly, their eyes held with an intensity he had never felt before. We have a question for you, Commander. Not for the Dominion, for you, and your answer will determine what happens next. Felt the weight of 10,000 years pressing down on him. All the power of the Dominion meant nothing in this moment. All his weapons, all his ships, all his training and experience offered no protection. He was being judged not by primitive species barely worth conquering, by something vast, impatient, and incomprehensibly powerful, and he had no idea what the right answer would be. Try to contact the Dominion home world. He needed orders. He needed guidance. He needed someone with more authority to make decisions about this impossible situation, but his communication systems no longer worked, not damaged, not jammed, simply not permitted. His signals reached the edge of the SAW system and stopped. They did not bounce back, they did not scatter, they simply ended, as if the universe itself refused to carry them further. You are blocking our communications, he said to the speaker, who still appeared on his screen whenever they wished. Yes, this is an act of war. No, this is a conversation. We prefer to have it without interruption. Felt anger rising in his chest. He was a fleet commander of the greatest empire in known space. He did not accept being trapped, isolated, helpless. His claws scratched against his chair as he struggled to control himself. You speak of giving us a chance, he said, yet you have already made us prisoners. You are not prisoners, you are guests who arrived without invitation. We are simply asking you to stay until we finish talking. The distinction meant nothing to. He was trapped, his fleet was surrounded. His weapons were useless against enemies he could not see or target. For the first time in his career, he understood what the species conquered by the Dominion must have felt. He did not like the feeling. On his ships, the crew was beginning to panic. Reports came in of strange occurrences, doors opening on their own, equipment activating without command, shadows moving in corners where nothing should move. The humans were not attacking, but they were making their presence felt. They were showing the how completely they were surrounded. Lieutenant Still on the moon station reported that the walls had become transparent. He could see outside now, see the stars and the earth below. He could also see things moving in the space between, shapes that were not ships, not stations, not anything he recognized, things that had been invisible before, now allowing themselves to be glimpsed. What are those? Asked his voice, trembling. Those are us, the voice in the walls replied. Some of us, the parts that live in space now, listened to these reports and felt his understanding of the universe crumbling. The humans had not just built technology beyond comprehension. They had become something beyond comprehension. They existed in ways that made no sense, lived in places that should not support life, moved through space without ships, and there were billions of them, maybe more. Approached him with data tablets clutched in her shaking hands. Commander, I've been analyzing the patterns we detected, the ecosystem management on Earth, the positioned objects throughout the system, the things our teams have seen. What have you concluded? They are not showing us their full capability. What we are seeing is restraint. They are deliberately limiting themselves so that we can understand some of what they are. If they wanted to, they could be completely invisible to us. They are choosing to be seen. Why would they do that? I believe they are trying not to frighten us more than necessary. They are being gentle. Gentle, the word hung in the air. The most powerful beings had ever encountered were being gentle with his fleet, treating them like children who might break if handled roughly. It was humiliating and terrifying. The speaker appeared on his screen. Again, your weapon systems have been deactivated. We wanted you to know. Checked his tactical displays. Every weapon system on every ship showed as offline, not damaged, not destroyed. Simply switched off as easily as snuffing a candle. We could have done this at any time, the speaker said. We Wanted you to understand that your weapons were never a factor in this conversation. Your threats were never real. We were never in danger from you. Then why wait? Why let me give the order at all? Because we wanted to see if you would, and you did. You armed your weapons against a species that had done nothing to threaten you. You prepared to attack us simply because we exist and you cannot control us. Wanted to argue. He wanted to explain that military precautions were standard procedure, that any commander would have done the same, but the words died in his throat. He knew what the humans were really saying. The Dominion had not changed. Given the chance, they would do exactly what they had done 10,000 years ago. They would try to suppress or destroy anything they could not dominate. We watched you do this to 12 other species, the speaker continued. We have recordings, detailed records of every civilization your empire suppressed with the biological agent, every culture that was destroyed, every potential that was erased before it could flower. Those species were primitive. They needed guidance. They needed to be left alone. They needed time to grow in their own ways. You stole that from them just as you tried to steal it from us. Had no response. He had believed his entire life that the Dominion brought order to chaos, civilization to primitives. He had never questioned it. Now facing a species that had grown beyond imagination without any help from the Dominion, he wondered for the first time if the empire he served was wrong. What do you want from me? He asked quietly. You said you had a question. Ask it. The speaker studied him for a long moment. Their ancient eyes seemed to look through him, seeing things he did not know about himself. The question is simple, they said. If you could undo what your ancestors did to us, the suppression, the attempted enslavement, the destruction of our civilization, would you? Opened his mouth to say yes. It was the obvious answer, the safe answer, the answer that might save his fleet. But the speaker raised a hand. Think carefully. We know if you lie. We have had 10,000 years to learn how to read your kind. We will know. Closed his mouth. He thought about the question. He thought about his training, his beliefs, his entire understanding of the universe. He thought about the 12 suppressed species, the ones humanity had recorded. He thought about his own children growing up in the comfort of Dominion certainty. Could he honestly say he would undo it? Could he honestly say the Dominion was wrong? He did not know. He had never been asked to question the foundations of his existence before. There is a second part to the question. The speaker said, would you undo what you are still doing to others? That was the harder question. That was the question that required not just regret for the past, but change in the future. That was the question that would cost something real. Looked at the human on his screen. He looked at the planet below, the impossible garden that humanity had made. He thought about power and how it was used. He thought about what it meant to be strong. And for the first time in his life, he was not sure what the right answer was. Stood alone in his quarters, the weight of the question pressing down on him like a physical thing. The speaker waited on his screen, patient as stone, giving him time to find his answer. He thought about saying yes. It would be easy. It might save his crew. But he knew it would be a lie, and he knew the humans would detect it. They had said so, and everything he had seen suggested they were not exaggerating their abilities. He thought about saying no, at least that would be honest, but honesty might mean death for everyone under his command. So he chose a third path, the only path. That felt true. I do not know, he said. The speaker's expression did not change. They waited. I want to say yes. Continued. I want to say that what my ancestors did was wrong. I want to say that what the Dominion is doing now is wrong, but I was raised to believe differently. My entire understanding of the universe tells me that we bring order to chaos, that we guide primitive species toward better futures. I have believed this my whole life. He paused, searching for words. I cannot honestly tell you I would undo it all because part of me still believes it was necessary. Part of me still thinks we were right, and I do not know if that part is true wisdom or just comfortable lies I have told myself. The speaker studied him. Long seconds passed, felt sweat forming on his scales. That the speaker said finally is the first honest thing is said to us in 10,000 years. Blinked. He had expected anger. He had expected punishment. He had not expected this. You are not certain, the speaker continued. You were raised in a system of beliefs that shaped your understanding of right and wrong. You cannot simply abandon those beliefs because a more powerful being tells you to. That would not be genuine change. That would be fear pretending to be growth. Then what do you want from me? We want you to question. We want you to doubt. We want you to look at what your empire does and ask if it is truly good or merely convenient for those in power. We cannot make you change. We would not, even if we could. Change must come from within. The speaker's image flickered and suddenly saw something behind them. Glimpse of Earth seen from somewhere high above, beautiful and green and alive. The garden humanity had chosen to preserve. We could destroy the Dominion. The speaker said, we have had 10,000 years to grow. We are spread across distances you cannot imagine. We have capabilities you cannot conceive. If we wanted revenge, we could take it completely. But you do not want revenge. No, revenge would require us to become what we hate. It would require us to conquer, to dominate, to suppress. We refuse. We choose instead to offer something else. What truth? The speaker made a gesture, and data began flowing to every ship. Thousands of files, millions of records, images, recordings, documents, testimonies. This is everything we have collected about the species your empire has suppressed. Every culture that was destroyed, every language that was silenced, every potential path of development that was blocked. We recorded it all, stared at the data streams. There was so much, too much to process. We are sending this information to every world simultaneously. Your communication block is being lifted, but you will not be the only ones receiving our message. What message? A simple one. We are reminding your people of what their empire has caused. The comfortable lies have protected them for too long. Now they will see the truth. Felt his world shifting beneath him. The Dominion controlled information carefully. The population believed what they were told to believe. If humanity released these records to everyone, showed them what the empire had really done, there will be chaos, he said. Yes, but chaos can lead to growth. Certainty often leads only to more of the same. Your people deserve the chance to choose what they believe based on truth, not propaganda. The speaker leaned forward, their ancient eyes meeting his. We are giving you something we never had. When your Ancestors came to Earth, they gave us no choice, they tried to force us into a shape that suited them. We are offering your species something different. We are offering you knowledge and the freedom to decide what to do with it, and if we decide to continue as we are, if we decide to keep suppressing others, then we will be watching and we will remember. And perhaps someday when another species adapts as we did, they will not be as patient as we have been. It was not a threat, it was simply truth, stated calmly and without anger. Understood now what humanity had become. They were not warriors, they were not conquerors, they were witnesses. They watched and recorded and remembered, and they used truth as their weapon. Your fleet may leave, the speaker said. Communications are restored, go home. Watch what happens when your people learn the truth, and ask yourself when the chaos settles what kind of civilization you want to build next. The image faded, was alone. He gave orders to withdraw. His fleet turned away from Earth, away from the garden humanity had made, away from the impossible beings who had grown from the species the Dominion tried to destroy. As they traveled home, reports began arriving. The human transmission had reached every world. The records were being viewed by billions. Already there were questions, protests, demands for explanations. The comfortable certainty of the Dominion was cracking. Thought about his children, he thought about what they would learn when they saw the records. He thought about the conversations they would have, the questions they would ask. He thought about the 12 suppressed species. Somewhere in the galaxy their descendants still existed, still struggling under the weight of what had been done to them. They were not humanity. They had not adapted and grown beyond their chains. They were still trapped. Could he help them? Should he try? He did not know, but for the first time in his life he was asking the question. On his screen the SAW system grew smaller behind them. Earth was just a blue dot now, barely visible, but knew that humanity was watching. They would always be watching, and they would remember. The Dominion had tried to destroy them 10,000 years ago. Instead, they had created something that could not be destroyed, could not be conquered, could not be controlled. They had created their own judgment, and now that judgment had been delivered, not through weapons or war, but through the simple power of truth. Looked at the stars ahead. Somewhere out there his people were learning what their empire had really done. The lies were falling away. What would rise in their place? He did not know, but he intended to be part of building it. The universe had changed. Today, not through conquest, not through destruction, but through the patient witness of a species that had chosen to grow beyond hatred. Humanity had won without firing a single shot, and they, for the first time, would have to face what they truly were.